My name is Lori Satter, and during the summer of 2010, I worked as an intern at the State Library of Massachusetts Preservation Lab, located in the State House. By watching this video, you will have the opportunity to go behind the scenes of the inner workings of one of the library's current projects to preserve the state documents housed in the Massachusetts room of the library. You will accompany me on a tour of the Preservation Lab, which is part of the State Library Special Collections Department, and learn about the tools needed to preserve historic documents. Then we will travel to the library stacks of the Massachusetts room as I go through the process of selecting items for preservation. According to the guidelines articulated in the National Endowment for the Humanities Preservation Assistance Grant, awarded to the library in 2009 to fund this and other projects. Next, I will develop and execute an action plan to preserve and ensure that these important library materials are accessible to the public for many years to come. Welcome to the Preservation Lab. As you can see, there is one main area where I do most of my preservation work. This surface provides a clean, sturdy, and large workspace. Here is my desk where I keep the documents I'm working on. Next to the desk are boxes full of supplies for this and other projects going on in the lab related to the grant. In the supply closet and throughout the preservation lab, there are a variety of materials I encounter while at work. There are folders and envelopes stored here for the typical 8.5 by 11 state documents. I also use oversized enclosures to better protect thicker or bigger documents, and on the shelves there are also document and book boxes for housing larger items. In addition to archival quality papers, folders, and envelopes, I also use specific tools when preserving documents. Moving clockwise, there's the pencil I use. When working with or near any historic document, it's best to use pencil and not pen. And it's a good reminder of one of the core tenets of preservation. Make sure that any action you take can be reversed or undone at a later point. This value is important because as technologies evolve, we get a better sense of how to best preserve our historical documents. Marking a folder with pen is difficult to undo. Next, you see an eraser and scissors used for delicate or small jobs. I use the micro spatula for removing staples, and the ruler for creating neat and easy to read labels, and the big scissors for cutting large areas. Now that we've taken a tour of the lab, let's head upstairs to the library. Here we are in the State Library of Massachusetts reading room, and behind the reference desk are the Massachusetts room stacks. Now we're in the library stacks. As you can see, some areas of the stacks have already been preserved, and those materials are now enclosed in archival quality boxes and envelopes, which support the documents and buffer light, dust, and any pollutants. Here are some examples of materials that haven't been preserved yet. As you can see, the longer paper is unprotected, the more it has the chance to become brittle. The folders holding some of these documents are also brittle and are held together by cloth ties. The top edges of many documents are exposed, which allows light and any air pollution to damage them. And because the folders enclosing them have deteriorated, the documents are sitting in direct contact with the library shelf, which puts all of the strain and pressure on their bottom edges. However, we can't preserve every document during this phase of the project. The phases of the project that my supervisor, Lacey Cruz, has outlined allocated funds from this grant to preserve the most at-risk and deteriorating documents. For example, any document housed in a plastic report cover must be removed and rehoused in an archival quality enclosure. However, many of the documents you see in this picture haven't been preserved and will be treated in a subsequent phase of the project because they have been deemed protected enough for now to remain in their current enclosures. We're back in the lab, and here's an image of the first document as I pulled it off the library shelves. The folder that is supposed to protect and support this document has deteriorated and is breaking apart at the top and bottom, and the spine of the folder has also begun to fray. These documents are housed in the folder and were published in the 1920s. At the top of each document, you can see a tag that reads MR. stands for Massachusetts Room, an early cataloging or tagging method. Because these items had the MR tag, which means they are not in the library's online catalog, I will cut out the old folder with the document's title, author, and call number written out and clip that information to the new envelope, because these documents will first go to cataloging. Next, I'll use an 8.5 by 11 folder to house these documents. Because they are smaller than average, I'll cut the folder down to better fit the size of the documents. I measure about 1/2 inch taller and 1/4 inch wider than the original document, making tick marks on the folder at each spot. Then I'll remove the document to avoid accidentally cutting it. Using the paper cutter, because it's more accurate than handheld scissors, I use the tick marks as guides when cutting the folder. And here you see the brand new folder that properly fits the documents. Once inside the envelope, the new enclosure will protect the documents from dust, light, and air pollution, as well as fully support the pages so that they don't bend or start to sag. The second document I'll be preserving was sitting on the shelf with no folder, binder, or envelope to protect it. If I left it in that condition, the ink will probably fade, the pages may tear or bend, or it may get lost between two large books. Like with the first document, I'll line up this document on top of an archival quality folder and make tick marks so I'll know where to cut down the folder to a size that best fits and protects the document. After cutting the folder, I'll label the document's new envelope using a ruler to ensure that the writing is legible. The library formats all envelopes with the call number in the bottom left corner and the author and title written along the top edge. Each call number for this collection begins with MR, which stands for Massachusetts Room. To make all labels uniform and easy to read and locate the information, the library format calls for the label to begin with the word Mass to represent a corporate author of a Massachusetts state document. Then the author, like the Division of Water Resources. And then underneath and indented is the document title, Annual Report for the Massachusetts Water Resources Commission. The final step is to record what preservation actions I've done and enter that data into a spreadsheet to keep a running tally of the materials used and processes carried out on each item. This document will also be used when my supervisor, Lacey Cruz, submits her final report to the NEH Granting Agency to document the work we've been doing. Now you see both documents, the one on the left on its way to the cataloging department, and the one on the right ready to go back on the shelf in its new enclosure. I hope you've enjoyed your tour of the Preservation Lab at the State Library of Massachusetts. If you have any comments or questions, please email me, Lori@lorisatter.com. Thank you.